The Department of Family and Community Services has combined with the Social Security Office to set up a disaster relief centre in the Broadmeadow High School. Families with little more than the clothes they were wearing at the time of the quake last Thursday are only now making their way to the centre. Many people were brought to the centre by Salvation Army officers or police after they were found wandering the streets in disbelief or still simply shocked. Some homeowners are coming in after waiting for days by barricades trying to gain access to their homes. Graham Hutchinson was working at his fishing and hardware stall in the Pink Elephant markets when the quake struck. Today his wife and 10-month-old daughter no longer have an income or home.
Our front wall, our first bedroom, got severely damaged, yeah. We can't live in it either.
What sort of damage are you looking at from a shop point of view?
A loss of trade for probably 3 or 4 months, I would imagine, which could equal probably at least $40,000.
Without being able to go into your home, where do you go now?
We go to a motel. This place has provided us with money and accommodation. They've been excellent here. Absolutely great.
A couple of weeks' time now, you won't be able to probably get back into your house, you won't be able to recover your business quickly. Where are you going to go from there?
We don't know. We have no idea as yet. No idea. It's looking pretty grim at the moment.
Today, 38 Family and Community Services social workers began door-knocking homes, asking how people fared in the quake and arranging welfare or new accommodation. For nearly 2 hours, the workers were briefed on what to expect. Relief Centre Director Terry Madden says he has heard some tragic stories since they set up early Friday.
We had a chap through yesterday whose business had been lost in the disaster, and also his home had been destroyed, and then his wife had a heart attack on top of that, but she's okay now, and he was just wondering what he could do next. So we've had stories like that, people who have been just totally lost everything and simply don't know what to do next.
Social Security officers at Cardiff, Charlestown and Mayfield are handling most inquiries during normal business hours, while all pension payments and sickness and unemployment benefits are being paid as normal. Darren Curtis for NBN News.
There was no traffic chaos but orderly confusion as cars banked up at 8 checkpoints around the city centre. Drivers with approved police passes were flagged through. Despite the inconvenience to motorists, police reported few problems.
People are pretty cooperative and very tolerant.
You haven't had to turn anyone away?
No, not yet, no.
Drivers who couldn't find parking near their business address were redirected to parking areas around the perimeter. Many chose to walk from those rapidly filling car parks, others arranged company transport. A bus service was also on hand to carry those who preferred not to walk over Cooks Hill. The arrangements didn't satisfy everyone. One barricade was apparently breached by impatient drivers.
We found the barrier had been pulled down, a number of cars going through just trying to get a shortcut into work. People are coming into town and their only reason to be here is for work, and that is just not enough. It's too dangerous.
Outside the cordon, hundreds more queued at Broadmeadow Racetrack to receive police entry permits. Each application was treated on individual merits, leading to inevitable delays.
We've got to get into Denison Street to get some files.
You've just got some identification?
Yep.
Our office is at Torres, so we have to get to Derby Street.
Right, okay. 234 Derby.
235.
As the crowd swelled, police put on an extra 7 officers to handle the multitude, opening tote windows to vet applications. Police say tomorrow shouldn't be quite as busy as more barricades come down and the city centre becomes more accessible.
Mr Finch operates a news agency in Hunter Street, and while his shop did not suffer any structural damage, he hasn't been able to trade since the central business district was closed off. Mr Finch says while the payment is only $1,500 a week, it will help at least to pay some bills.
Yes, I consider myself very lucky indeed, and really the insurance company's been very good about the whole deal.
It's only $1,500 a week. Do you think that's quite going to be enough?
Oh, obviously not, but I'm probably luckier than others that haven't got the policy that we took out for loss of profit. We just hope that we can get back in on Monday and start trading again.
Meanwhile, the Insurance Council has established an emergency service in Newcastle to help with the processing of claims. The service will act as a clearinghouse for claims, have the ability to appoint individual assessors and act as an advisory agency for all insurance companies. The service can be contacted on 294657 or any Sun Alliance Insurance office.
The full cost to Newcastle's stock of homes and buildings is still being counted. The State Emergency Service has responded to more than 4,000 calls since Thursday. 400 homes are classified as having suffered major structural damage. 9,000 buildings in all have been affected in some way. Council is still assessing major buildings in the city centre. While recognising the tragic loss of life and property, the Real Estate Institute says the market should hold up, offset by increased building activity.
Looking at where insurance companies have awarded contracts to either people in the Newcastle area or outside of Newcastle to come in and do repairs to buildings, obviously it's going to put some demand on our rental accommodation and on the properties that are currently for sale. So I guess that will be some extra demand there that hasn't been there in the last 6 or 8 months.
Many real estate agents themselves became victims of the quake, with some setting up temporary offices in the Donald Street Estate Agents Cooperative. They've agreed to make it a top priority to find alternative accommodation for those worst affected, but have appealed to tenants in properties which are still structurally sound not to move out just because the property has sustained some damage. Norm McFarlane says a building report may be necessary in some property sales where the quake has struck at its fiercest, but does not agree it should be compulsory.
So I don't really believe that it's necessary to go to that expense unless it is warranted.
It appears many livelihoods are at stake if the Central Business District and Hamilton do not open soon. Most shop owners are covered by insurance for loss, but the possibility of weeks without trade is a dim prospect. Lisa Robinson, who owns a small hairdressing salon in Hamilton, is just one of many sole traders who may go to the wall in the coming weeks if Beaumont Street remains off limits.
I was living every day that I opened the salon, every single dollar was accounted towards something, whether it was my loan repayment or my rent or my wages or my staff's wages. Because I'm not in operation now, I've got no income at all. I've got a loan to pay out, I've got rent to pay out.
But Lisa is lucky. Her shop was not damaged. For many, there's now the arduous task of having their premises inspected. The City Council has advised all shop owners to have a consulting engineer's report done and presented to the building department. But getting into the premises is proving a problem.
You have asked us if we can report to you the damage, structural damage inside the building. That's fine. But how can we report it if we can't get into the building? The thing is that I think that it would be advisable if the police department would be more lenient and not let us wait for 3 hours and sitting on the grass in Broadmeadow and tell us to come and apply next day.
It has also become clear from today's meeting that property owners are confused by the coloured stickers council engineers are placing on buildings.
An agent's acting on behalf of the owner of the building, who's in Sydney, got a clearance 2 days ago from a structural engineer that the building can be restored as it is. And my partner and I went in this morning, and there's a red sticker on it. We talked to the council guys that were going around putting the stickers on there, and they just assessed it from the outside. And yet there's a structural engineer saying that the building's okay.
That is what we're doing with the red sticker means there's a problem. It doesn't mean demolition. We're not telling anyone to demolish anything.
No, we realise that.
Just let me finish. We're not telling anyone to demolish anything.
Although the meeting was to provide information to all those businesses affected by the quake, many traders outside Hamilton and the city centre are finding it hard to get help.
Seem to be going round and round in circles. It's sort of the main concern is they keep speaking as Beaumont Street and the inner city area, which you can understand being the big area, but still, you still stop there. We can't find out which buildings are being demolished. We cannot find out which ones are going to stay, and so you're back still in the catch-22 situation.
The Chamber of Commerce still believes the city centre will be opened on Monday, but it remains to be seen just how many shops will be open for business.
The marathon was sailed on a 51-kilometre course, the longest of any world championship. It took 3 attempts to start the race, and then after over 5 hours on the water, the first border rider, Chris Lawrence, crossed the line, only to be informed that the event had been called a no race because the time was outside the 4.5 hours allocated, and he wasn't too happy at the news.
Very disappointed because it's really hard to win a regatta, a race like that with 250 competitors in it, let alone win it twice. So, yeah, I'm really disappointed about it.
Are you going to race on Saturday if they rerun the marathon?
I'll have to think about that, I'm not sure yet.
With many protests still to be heard in relation to the race and a new marathon planned for Saturday, the organising committee have copped their fair share of criticism, something that Greg Johns feels is unwarranted, as all have bent their backs to make these world titles a success.
In our slalom on our first day, we had 5 divisions, all did 25 races. So we had 125 races in one day. And that's a huge logistical problem, and our staff's been excellent and got us through all the problems so far.
But there's a strong call to have a pre-qualifying event for such titles to enable the best to perform to expectations.
There's people out there, it shouldn't be on the line, and they can come down the line and crash into you and spoil your chances of winning the World Championship. So I think there should be some kind of qualification regatta for sure.
Conditions were ideal for today's racing around the Olympic triangular course, with competition in all weight divisions. A breeze that fluctuated from 10 to 15 knots from the southeast provided plenty of excitement on the water. The lightweights, heavyweights and the light heavyweights sailed 4 heats, while the mediums and the ladies were able to squeeze in 5 heats. Provisional placings will be known shortly.
The game began in glorious conditions at the Roche Racket Resort. Lendl wasted no time to open his account early. Van Rensburg struck back with a lunging backhander. Van Rensburg continued his assault on the world number 1, placing balls all over the court. But the Czech managed to get his body into all sorts of positions to hammer the winner home. The two have been practising partners for the past couple of weeks and seem to have the answers for each other's fake shots. Lendl claimed the first set with a dazzling display of power volleys, however things didn't go all his own way in the second. Van Rensburg gained confidence and got a quick succession of points under Lendl's guard. Ivan felt the frustration and took it out on his racket. Van Rensburg capitalised on Lendl's frustration, slamming down a total of 5 aces for the match. Lendl couldn't recover and saw the game slip from his grasp, with a brilliant volley from Rensburg to win the match 4-6, 6-3, 6-4. In the other game of the day, Mikhail Pernfors and Charlie Steve produced a powerhouse display, thrilling the large crowd. Pernfors set up plenty of rallies and finished them easily. Steve seemed rattled and gave away too many points through unforced errors. There was controversy in the second set when Steve slammed home a smash after Pernfors gave the point up, claiming distraction. After a quick discussion between both players, it was decided to replay the point. Pernfors ran away in the last set, finishing the match with a strong forehand. Pernfors will now go on to meet Lendl tomorrow. In a swell that quite often got up to the metre mark, competitors from across the state battled it out in the first day of competition. The Catho Classic has become an annual event, attracting huge interest in surfing circles, mainly due to Catherine Hill Bay's clean water and regular swells. Finals begin tomorrow, with Newcastle and Central Coast surfers expected to feature prominently.
This is how the Newcastle Morning Herald and Miners Advocate reported the quake of 25. It says residents were startled by a mild shock on Friday night, December 18. The report says at first it was thought that the tremor was due to a creep, but this was quickly dispelled. Although damage was limited, the paper reported mild panic at the Theatre Royal, where the movie being shown was suddenly projected at the ceiling. But newspaper reports can't hope to capture the personal emotions of residents who still recall that first quake, like Beth Chamberlain, who was 9 years old when it struck.
The walls were moving and I heard the rumbling underneath, and then my mother and my aunt raced in to see if I was all right, and it was a very scary experience, and I think that's what's made it stay in my mind for so long, because I've mentioned it many times over the years to different ones.
What did you think it was on the first occasion?
I didn't know, I suppose because I was too young. Really, it was just something you didn't know.
What about the amount of damage from that first quake? Was there much?
No, there wasn't any. It would be like a very severe tremor, I'd say, but nothing like this one.
The livestock appeal was launched simultaneously at sale yards in Homebush, Wagga, Dubbo, Tamworth as well as in Maitland.
170, 171, 172, 172, we have again, hey, 173, 173, 4, 5, 8, 180.
Local bidding was strong, with the buyer of the first beast paying $580, 50% more than market value, but he didn't mind.
I mean, you paid a bit more than you would have, is that all right?
Oh yes, that should be all right, yeah. Done the people a good turn.
All proceeds will go directly to the appeal. In addition, freight charges, agents' commission and yard fees are being waived. This is the first time an appeal of this size has been launched in Australia. New South Wales's 436 stock and station agents will be in touch with the state's 20,000 primary producers to ask for a beast in the hope of raising at least $1 million. The idea for this appeal came from Lochinvar primary producer Bob Carrigan.
Basically, I think producers think it's easier just to draft out a beast or some sheep or some pigs and say donate that to an appeal rather than write out a cheque at the end.
The livestock appeal will close by the end of February. Willie Lafitte for NBN News.
It was a top-level meeting with senior officers from 15 state government departments reporting on the extent of damage to their properties. Apart from these pictures, the media was excluded. When Deputy Premier Wal Murray emerged, he offered news of a special committee to coordinate rebuilding.
We had a large group of people there from many departments and authorities. We have now refined that down into the Newcastle Earthquake Committee, which will be chaired by Public Works and which will have representatives from Treasury, Health, Education, TAFE, the Federal Department of Administrative Services, the Council and the Government Insurance Office.
Many questions remain unanswered. As yet, the priorities for repairs haven't been settled, nor has the government responded to queries on the future of building codes in the city. On just when public buildings will be fully restored, Mr Murray could only hazard a guess.
Crystal ball gazing, and that's all I can do. We will have full assessment by the end of May, and I expect it'll probably be up to 2 years before the whole program is completed.
The Newcastle Earthquake Committee will rule on priorities for rebuilding. For the moment, the Deputy Premier has revealed several state departments suffered far more property damage than others.
I think it's probably a toss-up between TAFE and Health. Would probably be the two most heavily damaged departments, followed by Education.
The Education Department puts its damage bill at $20 million, but with the exception of the Junction Public, Wickham Public and Newcastle School for specific purposes, all schools should be open on the first day of Term 1. To the Education Bill, add an estimated $73 million to repair the hospital system, currently down by 150 beds. The question now facing public authorities is whether to rebuild or replace. That question still hangs over Royal Newcastle's North and York Wings and Wheeler House, with the Deputy Premier unable to reveal when a final verdict will be delivered.
Hundreds of chemicals were mixed into a toxic cocktail during the quake and subsequent fire. Firemen were taking no chances with the chemicals which have remained in the wing, while complex arrangements were made for their disposal. Wearing airtight suits and working in 20-minute shifts, the firemen started removing the chemicals late this afternoon. It's understood they will be analysed by the State Pollution Control Commission before being removed to an approved toxic waste dump in Sydney. The operation at Tyres Hill Tech is expected to continue until late this evening.
The quiet, unassuming Watson is a demon on the track and in '89 chalked up an amazing 11 national and state crowns. On the Australian scene, Chris won the Best Pairs Championship, the 500cc long track title, the 500cc dirt track and also the 250cc dirt track titles. Chris was the 500cc New South Wales long and dirt track champion, the South Australian 500cc long and unlimited long track champion. To those crowns he added 3 other events in New South Wales. In the Australian Long Track Grand Prix against the best riders in the world during November, Chris was second to Simon Wigg, the current world champion. Since 1981, Chris Watson has won 18 national and 43 state titles, a marvellous achievement. Chris Watson, Wizard on Wheels.
Ride by Chris Watson, second place.
The 18-year-old from Merewether Heights completed her first full year on the professional tennis circuit last year, and for experience alone it was a valuable 12 months. Mixed with learning were some excellent performances. In April, Rachel was successful in 2 singles tournaments in Italy, the Casaria Open and the Monviso Open, and she also collected the doubles crown at Monviso. Rachel ventured to Hamburg to play that city's Open Championship, and she made the quarter-finals, being defeated by the world's #1 women's player, Steffi Graf. In September, Rachel played superb tennis to make the final of the United States Open Junior Singles Final in New York, and also in September, Rachel was a finalist in the Virginia Slims tournament in Athens. Her ranking for 1989 was a very creditable 69. Rachel McQuillan, tennis champ in the making.